It is getting down to the wire. My goal is to fire up the four-wheel drive drag truck by the end of the year. Today is Tuesday, the 2nd of December, which means we have less than 1 month left to get this thing fired up. We're making good progress. I think it's doable, but we're about to start the most daunting part of the checklist that we have remaining, which is wiring. We have a ton of wiring changes that we need to do. That's just the engine harness. And the reason why we have so many wiring changes to do is partly because we're going to be twin turboing this truck in the future. We want to kind of make some accommodations for placement of things. And then also we have basically a Gen 4 engine in a Gen 3 truck. And so there's a lot of like throttle body connectors and sensors in different locations and a lot of things like that, which we need to take care of. So we're going to do some of that today. We're going to get the final bit of plumbing knocked out under the hood here, which is a lot of it's going to be simple stuff like just factory hoses and things like that. Last time we got the fuel pressure regulator mounted. Since then I have plumbed the last few connections. Not finalized, I still have to put the heat wrap on. We got to get our power steering hoses built. So there's a lot of little things that we have left to do. 2nd gen Syclone sitting back there. We're getting a fresh set of brakes on that for the winter. Sweepstakes ends the 21st of December, by the way. Get entered to win. We'll talk more about that at some point, I'm sure. But wiring, I've been dreading this, so that means it's time to start. So the wiring on this truck is going to be an evolution. We're going to do some stuff first, and then down the road, we're going to change it all up because ultimately I do have a Holley Dominator that I purchased way back when we were building the big block for this truck. And the plan still is to have the Dominator installed. But at first, kind of my whole mantra is get the truck running before we add the power. So we'll get it started up at first with the stock harness. We'll turbo it with the stock harness. And then later on down the road, once we get all the bugs kind of sorted out, then we will add the Dominator. The first thing really that we're going to do is I know what most of these connectors are because I've worked on these trucks for so long, that just remind myself of what things I'm going to remove, like this plug, that plug back there, and remind myself of what things I have to move. Like, where's it? That guy there. That belongs to a part that we're no longer going to use. So in this particular branch of the harness, there's this 4-pin connector, which we're not going to be needing any longer. So instead of just cutting it off, what I'm going to do, since we have already stripped the harness apart, I'm just going to take all the wires out. No sense to have them in there, so we're just going to clean this up. So a little while later, we got most of the harness cleanup done. All told, there's 8 wires that we pulled out. And when I mean pulled out, I'm talking front to back, top to bottom. The whole harness came apart. There was one that went to this connector here. We de-pinned that. There are 2 that go to this connector. We're going to get rid of those. And then 3 in each of the C1 and C2 connectors. That's just all stuff that we didn't need. We still have to move some things around in here. We'll talk about that in a second. I am going to keep this in mind for the future because these pink ones here, these are switched 12 volt. So let's say I add a relay that I want to have key on. I can use this 12 volt to energize the relay and use the ground circuit from something else to activate the relay. I just gotta remember which spot I de-pin. Like 101? That works. I want to sponsor you to go racing next year. Sort of. I have a truck for you, though, that you can race, and it's fun, it's fast, you can drive it on the street, and you can win it. Seriously, you can win this truck. It's called the Second Gen Syclone. You've probably heard me talking about it before, but I built it, I'm done with it, I'm giving it away. So, here's your reminder for the video. If you want to win this truck, all you have to do is go over to tolmanperformance.com, pick up some merch, and get entered to win. You can read the official rules. The sweepstakes is open to residents of US and Canada. Every $5 that you spend on the website is going to get you one entry to win, except for the quick entry feature, which gives you 2 entries for every $5 spent. So I'm giving it away. I'm going to miss it. It's a lot of fun, but it's got a supercharger. It's a Harrop 2300 FDFI. It's a 5.3 cam, full exhaust. Like this truck is so much fun. I'll put a link down below if you want to check out the build of this truck. But yeah, giving it away. Don't forget, sweepstakes closes on the 21st of December. All right, made a list ahead of time. There are 16 changes that I'm doing to the harness. I won't go down the whole list, but we're probably halfway done. And the first half of the upgrades was basically moving things to their right position, like the cam position sensor needs to go down to the front cover instead of on the back of the block. Removing all the unnecessary circuits and things like that. So that part is done. Now we need to do the modifications, like the transmission connector. I got to repin this for the 4L80 instead of a 4L60. This connector we're going to be repurposing for a flex fuel instead of the thing it used to be. So I need to make 2 changes on that end, or 1 change on that end rather. So at this point we're just going to be taking connectors apart and moving things around. You know, it's amazing how much wiring work you can do with a simple pick and a screwdriver. We need to remove wire S and wire T. Okay. All right. Pin U goes to pin S. So this guy needs to live there. Could add a speed sensor circuit for the turbine on the 4L80, which I could use those 2 wires that I just pulled out, which, by the way, I did pull entirely out of the harness. That would have been much easier, but I'm going to use this twisted pair that I actually pulled from the ABS harness because I saw them yesterday. I was like, yeah, that's perfect. And the twisted pair with speed sensor wires, usually, like you can see they did here, this is the transmission output speed sensor. The twisted pair just reduces interference or something, I guess. Now I got to repin, move a couple of things around, like, for example, I'm pulling the wire that was at position 68 for an old sensor. We're repurposing that for the flex fuel, so I just can move that a couple of spots down. Just a bunch more stuff like that. All right, that's gonna go from there to there. All right, Eddie brought me an exhaust. All I really need is this part. We're going to temporarily put a stock exhaust in when we start it up and run it naturally aspirated. Of course, we're going to turbocharge this thing very shortly after, but we just want to have something in the meantime. Pick that up, James? No, don't pick it up. I was about to catch it. You guys ever used one of those like electric induction things? I really like to try one out for stuff like this. Yeah, we're talking. Okay, grab that one off, James. Excellent. You know, I just realized today is Thursday. The week's getting away from me, but we've been picking away at stuff one by one. It's the point of the project, I've said this before, where there's a million little things to do. None of them are exciting, but they all have to be done. So it's a little, I don't know, frustrating because you're like, man, I hate wiring, but you can't start the truck up without wires. So I've been bouncing around a little bit. My ADD is kind of like taking me everywhere. And we're making the engine bay ugly. I hate plumbing and wiring just because an engine by itself, it looks so cool, but of course it needs hoses and wires to work. But battery cables, we just got some OEM battery cables in here, and they're ugly. We'll redo that when we turbo it. I showed you the fuel lines. Over here, AC, we're kind of working on this. And then I realized we got to backtrack a little bit because I put a Suburban or an Escalade condenser in. It's 3 inches or 6 inches wider than the truck one. This hose won't work, and I don't really want to bend it because that would look awful. And I can't put the Escalade hose on here because that splits off for rear AC, which we don't have. So we got to reorder a condenser. But I've been doing things like changing out the little gaskets on the end. We're going to put a new orifice tube in there, new check valves or Trader valves. So we're rebuilding the AC as we go. I spent a little time on that. Spent a little time stripping that Y pipe apart. Showed you guys that. By the way, the muffler I'm going to run at first, that is a LMM Duramax muffler. And no idea how it's going to sound. I hope it sounds pretty cool. So we'll find out together later. Wiring, we have a lot of wiring left to do. We're not done, but parts of it are kind of done. Like here, for example, everything on the PCM side has been eliminated that doesn't need to be there, moved and things like that. So we had the flex fuel sensor pin that we added. We added the twisted pair for the input speed sensor for the 4L80. I forget, there's like a bunch of stuff we did here. That's kind of ready to go. We still have to swap the injector connectors over. These are the original 5.3 injectors, which we're not using those. We're using an EV6 style. I've got to change that connector there for the throttle body. So instead of the 8-pin Gen 3, we're running a 6-pin Gen 4 throttle body. And I mentioned this, but if you're curious, we're going to be able to run this without a TAC module, or I'm sorry, without an X-Link on this truck. X-Links can be problematic. Using a TAC module from a 99 to 02, either like an 8.1, a traction control equipped Escalade, Denali, and things like that. So I'll put the link for the write-up that I found. I didn't invent this, but I found it and it seems to work. So I guess we'll find out if it works or not. So there's that. Just trying to think of what to do next. Like I said, there's a million things. We keep checking items off the list, but it keeps growing. So, I just got my stuff to build the power steering. So we'll build some power steering houses. So, if you're going to try to build your own power steering hoses for a GM truck, you need a couple different types of fittings. One, you need you need two M16 and two M18 adapters for the steering gear and the hydro boost in the pump. I don't know what the rack and pinion is off the top of my head. I think that was a 16. I need a couple of these Earls fittings. They come in 120s, 90s, 45s, and straights. And this is basically a rebuildable style hydraulic fitting. Left-hand thread on the nut that goes on the end of the hose. Just kind of screw that on until it stops, and then we wind in the hose end. Now the cool thing about this is this hose is really thick. It's meant for high pressure, but it's also very flexible. So you can make tight corners and things. Another thing to keep in mind when you build these are not a swivel fitting. which means you have to clock the tube nut or the hose nut to the hose exactly to get things to line up, which the first one doesn't matter, the second one is critical, because otherwise your hose will be very twisted up. Well, I mocked it up. Hopefully my length is correct, because this hose is expensive, and I only bought enough to build one hose, or to build each hose one time. Well, the engine bay is filling up pretty quickly, but we're still able to keep that corridor between the engine and the booster fairly empty. I did have to route the power steering hoses a little different than I initially thought, where the feed from the pump into the Hydro Boost, you can see it kind of goes up over the top there, which puts like 6 or 7 hoses all in this corner between Hydro Boost and fuel, but it actually fits really nicely. I'm happy with it. Like this pressure line here, I don't know if you can tell, it goes right in between the two fuel lines, so nothing is going to rub together. This guy here, I still need to terminate or build the hose end, because I'm waiting on another 120. I only thought I would need 2, but the outlet of the pump actually worked better with a 120 to kind of pull the hose back and out of the steering shaft. So we get another one of those on order, and then I have a 120-degree push lock to go to the low pressure return, that guy there, which is going to go to the reservoir. You can kind of see the yellow cap there. I did drill and tap my shock towers, just the top of them, with an M6 to hold the hoses and kind of keep them routed where they'll be out of the heat and out of the way of the tire. That's a bit of a tricky job. It cost me like 2 taps to make those threads in there. Broke a couple of them off, but we got it. So we have now the rest of our AC stuff. We got the new condenser, so we will get that torn apart, swap the condenser, and then we can actually start putting our hard lines in. And then I'm going to get from Rowan's Rides, I'm going to get the other evaporator or receiver dryer for the hose, the suction hose, to keep that around the turbo. So whew, it's tough building twin turbo trucks. You guys want to know what bolt I hate the most on the GMT 800? 2 of them. Those 2 right there. Too bad this didn't work out, because it probably would provide marginally better AC than the smaller one. Now they do, of course, give you new studs when you buy a new condenser, but these are OEM. And OEM makes me happy. All right, new gasket, new Schrader valve, new orifice tube, whatever that does, and new O-ring. We'll put the O-ring on that side. And a new one of these. All right, you probably can't see anything, but it's low radiator hose. That's all we're doing. Still need to find some clamps for this one, but that's where that hose is going to go. You know, it kind of occurs to me that as we get older, I'm almost 40, got a couple years left, but I'm almost 40, and there's certain things that you just insist on having in life, and then there's certain things you notice, like how fast time goes by. I mean, for me, right now, today, it's the 5th of December. 2025 is almost over, and I swear we just flipped the calendar over to January of 2025. But, hey, another year down. And one thing I insisted on having on this truck is air conditioning, full interior, power everything. Yeah, it's going to be heavy. I know it's going to be fast though too, because it's going to be twin turboed. This is just a 6.2 for now, but it's going to have a built motor, 408 or a 427 or something. Maybe we'll go 440. It's going to have a big motor, big boost, and it's going to be fast for a heavy truck. You know, those Coyote F-150s are kind of the new benchmark, but I'd like to be up there in the, 8-second zone, even if it's an 8.99. That'll be perfect for this truck. So that's our goal. Obviously not this year. This year we just want to hear the engine run naturally aspirated, and we are making progress. Over here in this corner, the fuel system's pretty much done. It's on the way. I have some more of that silicone fire sleeve to cover this and the two hoses down there on the firewall. Power steering pretty much done, just waiting on two fittings there, and then we'll wrap the power steering in fire sleeve as well. AC system is kind of coming along, which, we have some new parts now, so I know it'll work great. Still gonna get from Blake at Rowan's Rides the different receiver dryer. You probably saw the intake tube that I stuck in there for a quick second. Realistically, this truck is gonna be naturally aspirated for not all that long, maybe a month, maybe 2 months, just so I can work all the bugs, make sure like the four-wheel drive system works, make sure the truck is a truck, and I get to enjoy it for a little while after 3 years of work on this thing. And then we're gonna immediately tear it apart and twin turbo it. I already have the manifolds. I haven't ordered my turbos yet, or the intercooler wastegates or things like that, but we have the manifolds and it's gonna be twin turboed, hopefully before race week. So, that's what I'm going to be racing next year. If you want to go racing next year, I have something for you. You've already seen it, this video, 2nd gen Syclone, we're giving it away. So just a friendly reminder, get entered to win. It's supercharged, it's V8 swapped, it's all-wheel drive, it's red, and I have put, without exaggeration, more hours into this truck than any other project that I have built. That's a lot of hours, and it can be yours. So, Tolman Performance, $5 gets you one entry. Sweepstakes closes on the 21st of December, so I believe that's 2 weeks-ish. And for a little bonus, you can get the quick entry that has basically a 2-time multiplier, so every $5 gets you 2 entries. Thank you guys for watching. Come back soon, and wish me luck, because the year is running out quickly, and I want to hear the four-wheel drive drag truck run.